Dom, you just got back from the largest underground salt mine in the world. Mine is owned by one of our portfolio companies, Compass Minerals. What were your biggest takeaways from going there? What did it look like? Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah. So we went to the Goderich Mine up in Canada. Peter and I did, and it was incredible to see the perspective difference between the Warrior Met mine that we went down in earlier this year, and then the salt mine in Goderich this time. Um, it was basically an underground city in Goderich. The ceilings had to have been 60 feet high. The distance we traveled felt like miles. There were pathways everywhere. And it was so different compared to Warrior, where the ceiling heights were, 5 feet and you had to worry about hitting your head, versus this Goderich salt mine was basically very large, open space. The things that were interesting to me, one, again, you could compare the difference between the mining methods at Warrior versus Compass. Compass uses basically like a rotator. It's also called the continuous miner, exactly the same as Warrior. Just the way that the blade is shaped is a little different. Warrior went side to side when they mined, versus Compass goes basically front to back. And they mine about 60 feet worth of salt, and they do it typically in 4 passes, somewhere around 15 feet they take away per pass. The so the mining was relatively the same. They also used basically a conveyor belt to take the salt away from where the mining operation was being done. I think what stood out the most to me was, in the Northeast, we know what salt does to our cars during the winter and just, corrodes them over time. You can imagine what happens to machines that are in salt the entire time they're down there. These machines get beat up. The amount of maintenance that is required on these machines is a lot. I believe there's something like 500 people that work at the Goderich mine. And a lot of those people are on the maintenance side, just refurbishing equipment and just maintaining them to ensure there's never any downtime in production. Basically, any time there isn't salt coming out of the continuous miner, it's going to be lost money. I think the other thing, I guess, that was interesting was that they have seven continuous miners down there. They just replaced one last year. These typically have an average life of somewhere around 15 years. Over the next several years, they're going to start replacing some older equipment that's already known, and there appears to be an opportunity for them to automate more of the production of the salt. Right now, it's controlled by somebody just using basically a controller or a joystick, basically, that has to move the mining, like the blade up and down and then front to back. Over time, with the evolution of AI and other advancements in technology, I suspect you're going to be able to automate more of the production. And if you can automate more of the production, requires less people, that probably means you can mine more often, which would, again, increase production, should be a benefit, a tailwind to production volumes in sales.
Yeah.
I think
No, go
the
ahead.
the last thing I'll say is what stood out the most to me is the CEO is relatively new. He's been there for about a year and a half, Ed. Whereas before, the previous management team was very distracted with other side projects, the current management team appears laser focused on optimizing their core salt business. Their back to basic strategy was in focus the entire time we were there. And it just seems like they have a lot of opportunities, nothing significant, but just several small projects that I think over time will add up to be something significant, I guess. Um,
We're gonna have to get you and Pete some hard hats and pickaxes. That's 2 mines in 1 year. So, so when you were there, you talked about how they have a new CEO. Did you notice a difference in culture between the 2 mines?
I I would say the overall sentiment was every management team member that I spoke to noticed a shift in the just the way everything was communicated and the focus of team members. Um, One of the easiest examples is a mine, doesn't matter what mine it is inherently dangerous. You're underground. Obviously, fires are the most risky event that could occur down there. Everybody on the team is laser focused on making sure everybody is safe, and that's like a basic thing. But when you have a management team that doesn't reinforce and doesn't want people to speak up about safety, uh, safety tends to just go to the wayside versus this team, again, laser focused and wants to make sure everybody is safe. I think everybody else, the other team members that we talked to, um, has a mindset that's more on the continuous improvement. Everybody is encouraged to speak up if they see ways to improve some sort of process. I think any organization that has that sort of mindset is more likely to grow, be more efficient over time. And a lot of the management team changed over in the last year or two. Um, and they all seem to have a very good footing on the task at hand and what they need to do.
Yeah, I did some research. It looks like Ed Dowling, the new CEO, is actually over 30 years of mining experience. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's looking at the Goderich mine. Compass has owned it since 1990. You can. It just feels like there's lot of positive things going on. He knows what he's doing, and seems like things are on the up and up over there. Just good to
Yeah.
see.
Yeah. He's a more of like a no nonsense. His background is interesting. He was a Navy SEAL, went to Penn State. I believe he won a national title at Penn State. Just an incredible, I would say, incredible background. And he is not somebody that needs to be working. So for him to have the job, be fully engaged on the day-to-day operations, I think he sees an opportunity and he loves building a team and a culture. And I think that's his, main reason he's there.
Yeah. So what led you and Pete to find Compass and say this is something that we should put some more research to?
So Pete talked to one of the largest shareholders just by chance, and that shareholder was at the tour. And the the stock had been clobbered before we bought it on the back of just management mistakes, terrible capital allocation, and the thesis basically came about that if they stop destroying capital from these projects that are very distracting and more moonshot projects, get back to the salt business that is a high quality business. It's a very easy turnaround in the sense that you don't have to change a company around that has bad processes into new processes. You just need to stop doing poor capital allocation decisions and use the cash that you are generating at the salt mine, pay down debt, and the business basically takes care of itself. And so the stock was trading relatively inexpensive, got kicked out of an index, which just led to more forced selling. And if they execute on their plan, the stock was a $60 stock before they were doing all these things. I'm not sure it's worth $60 in the near term, but over the long term, there's a path for them to reduce debt on the balance sheet and get back to the steady dividend payer that they were historically. I think I'll just add one other thing. On top of seeing the mine, the interesting part was the other individuals that were there were also shareholders, and being able to talk to them, understand why they got involved in the stock, in the business, why they're there, what they see as the opportunity, upside, things like that, was just as valuable as being able to tour the mine. And what was the most shocking was basically everybody has bought the stock, bought Compass within a 4 to 6 month period of each other. So basically, once the stock was kicked out of the index, everybody at that tour was basically buying the stock hand over fist, just like we were. And I don't think I've ever been a part of a group where these shareholders all bought at the exact same time. Nobody there owned the stock in 2018, 2019 when these lithium projects and fire retardant projects were going on. Everybody there bought the stock after basically Ed came in and things started to um, things started to improve, I guess, just both on the business side and just the capital allocation decisions.
What was the general sentiment between between investors after seeing the mine actually in person?
So everybody owns the stock there. So everybody's natural inclination is to be, we're all bullish on the stock. We all think the stock is undervalued. We all think the business and the assets the company owns are very high quality. I think the general takeaway there was people understand what goes into a mine, what goes on at a mine. I think the general takeaway was, one, the company has an opportunity to better communicate the opportunities, those small opportunities that I mentioned before. They have an opportunity to better communicate the potential either cost reductions, revenue upside, or pricing margin, whatever it may be. The company has a better opportunity to present those facts, and our hope is that maybe they'll have an investor day at some point in the future to lay out the plan going forward. And then I think the other thing is that the maintenance, the effects of salt on the equipment, I don't think anybody truly understood how much damage or wear and tear all this equipment took, and the maintenance required on a salt mine takes every, I can't remember what the exact number is, but I think it's like every 3 feet by 4 feet, they have to put a metal screw up in the ceiling to basically compact the seal to give the roof more support from falling in. And so the entire time you're driving through, like every 3 feet, there's just basically a metal screw, and they have to go. They have a crew 24/7 dedicated to going around the entire mine, looking at those screws to see if any have basically come out or loosened, which would indicate that the ceiling's shifting and that they need to do something to reinforce it. I think just like the amount of maintenance that is required, it was incredible. They have opportunities on that side to potentially lower the ongoing maintenance costs by doing different things that hopefully they'll communicate more in the future.
Yep. Well, so what are you going to be looking for? Looking for moving forward? Is there anything you're going to be keeping your eye on specifically after seeing everything in person?
Yeah, there will be a couple things. One, I'll be interested in the capital expenditures that the company is spending over the next couple of years on the back of replacing the continuous miners, and they also have basically like the conveyor belt that they have currently. I believe they might replace in the next several years. So just they've guided to what they think the annual capital expenditures number is going to be. I believe it's 100 million, but I wouldn't quote me on that. Somewhere around there. I'll just be curious over time if that is the correct number, or if they find ways to either reduce it through using their existing equipment longer, or if they have to basically speed up the replacement cycle of their machinery. just how that will trend over time. And then the other thing is some of the initiatives that they have ongoing are both on the product development side and the cost reduction side. So on the product development side, typically anytime you add something extra to just traditional salt, it is going to carry a higher price and a higher margin. Does Compass lean into that a little more, and do we see margins expand just from a pricing and different product distribution over the next couple of years? And then on the cost side, just the maintenance side, do they find ways to reduce the ongoing maintenance costs? And we would see that either in the SG&A line or the cost of goods sold, and basically the cost of goods per ton. Does the cost of production basically trend down or flat over time? Last year, they did not have production fully ramped up due to excess supply in the industry. This year, they are basically back to full production. When you have full production versus less than full production, the cost of mining a ton of salt goes down when you're at full production because you don't have basically idle downtime. So we should see the cost per ton come down this year. And again, when you layer in additional initiatives that the company has, where is the stabilized cost per ton of production moving forward?
Yeah, making an effort to lower that cost of goods sold is extreme. At the scale that they produce, it can make a meaningful impact when they produce 6 million tons a year.
Right.
Capacity. But yeah, I mean, just being able to go and visit these companies and see what we're investing in person is so valuable. And I'm glad that you're able to do that. Do you have any other takeaways you want to include?
I don't think so. I think in general, I would just say we continue to be very optimistic on the business. The CEO, from everything we've gathered, appears to be the right guy. The management team has said, and they're continuing to do all the right things. I think the future is bright for them. I don't think our thesis on the stock changed at all. If anything, it just reinforced that basically the historical financials of the business are probably not the accurate picture of the business going forward. And as the true stabilized, more focused management teams, fingerprints get on the business, those results will start to show through. That should lead to more revenue growth, higher margins, improving earnings power of the business. And when they get down to a leverage target that they're comfortable with, it should then transition from a debt reduction story to a capital return story. I think the sentiment at the group was we would like buybacks, assuming the price doesn't move. It'll probably move upward, assuming everything goes well. But then just balancing: do they do buybacks? Do they do dividends? Just what's the next leg in the story once we get there?
That's all good news for an investor. So that's what I'd like to hear.
Yep.
Glad that you're able to do that, and thanks for sharing, Dom.
You got it. Thanks, Kellan.
Yep. Bye.